Hello. So I recorded this on my phone to begin with. The quality was better, but I felt like the angle was really weird. So I wanted to, you can see Darth Vader back there. Oh, on the way. Darth Vader. I wanted to talk about the books that I have read in November. So I am an English teacher, and one of the things that I was really disappointed about was the lack of reading that I was doing. And so I wanted to try to read more, try to get more knowledge, of course, and to get that love of reading back. We preach to our kids constantly, or at least I do. You need to read, you need to read. Reading is the way to gain vocabulary. Reading is the way to do better. Reading helps with everything. It'll help with your writing. It'll help with your speaking. But then I felt like I was not being a good example of a good reader because I wasn't reading. I felt like I didn't have time. And so just like the children, I was putting it off and not giving it enough time. So now in the classroom, we have 10 minutes every day. When they come in, they start reading. We read for 10 minutes. I use Epic for them because it tracks the reading process and it allows me to join them in reading. And so what I do is while they are all reading on their individual devices, I pick a book out of the classroom library and I read it. So while they're reading, they see me reading. When I have co-teachers in the room, they are also expected to read at this time. I say expected, they like to read. So, for us, it's a treat to get 10 minutes of time to read. And so for me, I actually get 50 minutes of reading a day. Well, no, 60. I get a whole hour of reading because I do not read on my prep period, but I have 6 classes. We all read for 10 minutes, and so it works out that, I read for about an hour a day just at school, and then I come home and I try to continue that. So that has helped in the buy-in at our school just a little bit. It's fairly fresh, so I'm sure that the motivation will kind of dwindle, but because it is for a grade and the grade is very easy to get, all they have to do is read and turn the pages. Now, will I have students that just click the pages? Yes, probably. However, I let them read whatever they want. So even if it's a comic, a graphic novel, as long as it's not a video or an audiobook, which is unfortunate because I don't mind audiobooks, but the program does not track it, does not count it as reading, then it counts everything for them. So they don't have to worry about, did I pick the right book? Is this going to work? They just pick something with pages and pictures if they want, and it will track. So for me, I have been able to finish a few books this November. This was just enacted right after Thanksgiving in the classroom, so we've only been doing it for a little bit here. But I had tried to pick up reading during our Thanksgiving break, and so I have finished 3 books this month of November. And I'm currently reading 2, but there's no way I'm going to be able to finish them because it's November 30th. So I'll tell you about the 3 books that I have finished this month. Then I'll tell you about the 2 that I am currently reading and will be in December's wrap up. And then I'll tell you about some TBR books that I hope to start in December if everything works out. So right now, I have finished The 5 Love Languages. It was super good. It was a super interesting read. It obviously is like self-help / self-development. It's not really a novel per se, but it was so good. I listened to the audiobook. I did not have the physical copy. I bought the audiobook. And the narrator, of course, he was actually the author as well, so that was really nice to hear him reading his own book. He had such a pleasant and comforting demeanor. The way that he spoke, it was just very interesting and relaxing, and I felt like he really kept my attention. I didn't find myself having to double speed the audio or, there was never a time where I thought, oh my gosh, I'm bored. I never thought about DNFing it. I really, really enjoyed it. And I would definitely encourage anyone who is curious about the five love languages, or maybe you were like me and you knew a little bit, maybe you had heard about it in a PD or professional meeting, something like that, and you hear people discuss like, oh, what's your love language? Acts of service, quality time. There are 5 different ones, obviously, the 5 love languages. And it was just such an interesting read. He did really well about linking them all, and the book didn't feel like it was just, here's this, end. Here's the next one, end. They were all woven together to create a really good understanding of the 5 love languages. So I really, really like that. And I came in with a little bit of background knowledge. I had heard about it in a workshop. I had taken the test at one point. But the book was so good. So even with some background knowledge of the content, I still found that there was more value in the book. So it's definitely worth a read, even if you sort of know what it is already. I highly recommend it. And I recommend the audiobook. I think his inflections and personal notes really added to the experience. I really felt like it felt so conversational. It really did feel like he was just there talking to you. So I give it 5 stars. I didn't add it to my favorites or anything, but I mean, it was a good read and it's worth reading, I think. Moving forward to the second book, which really is the one that set off my, oh my gosh, I want to read again. It was such a good book. So Howl's Moving Castle is, famously it's been made into a Studio Ghibli movie. But Howl's Moving Castle is about a girl named Sophie. She gets cursed by a witch. She lives in sort of like an alternate Earth, I guess you'd call it. It's reminiscent of, where we are, but it is not Earth. So it is kind of a magical fantasy land. Her name is Sophie. She lives in a land where the way or the order in which you're born determines what is going to happen to you, whether you'll be wealthy, whether you will be happy, whether you're going to, kind of die alone. And so she's resigned herself to, I'm just going to be an old lady, and that just sucks. She's very straightforward. I loved Sophie's blunt personality. And so she gets cursed by a witch, and basically she looks like an old lady. And so she's I don't know, I read her as in her 20s. The movie seems to make her maybe even younger than that, but I kind of read her as a young adult, 20s. And so she's made to look like this old lady, this old crone, and she even feels old. So like her bones ache. She talks about how cranky she is. And she goes from being this very polite young woman to this like crabby, honest, very like in your face old lady. And she realizes that she can't stay at home because obviously, she's an old lady. Her mom's not going to recognize her because the caveat of this curse is that she can't tell anyone about her curse. And so moving forward, she runs away and she meets a few more characters who are so excellent. I can see now why it is such a popular movie, why it's a cult classic book, why so many people are so in love with it. It really brought back feelings of movies like The Labyrinth, where you just have all of this fantasy and the characters are so good and you just want to keep reading. I picked the book up thinking, I'll just read a little bit, and I read 4 hours straight and finished the book. I mean, I couldn't put it down. And when I read the last line, I cried. Not because anything happened or because it was, a bad ending, but because it was so good. It emotionally was such a good book, and it wasn't sad or anything, but just the last line of it, I was so concerned about a character and what was going to happen to them, and there was a line, and I was like, oh my gosh. So I've been telling everyone to read it. My co-teacher is reading it. I've encouraged several others to read it. Anyone that comes around, I'm like, read this book. It's so good. And so I'll definitely be adding it to my classroom library. Anyway, it was great. 5 stars. I have not and probably will not read the next 2 books in the series because I've heard that the characters are different characters, that the main characters of the first book just have cameos, and I'm not necessarily interested in that. If it was about Sophie and Hal, absolutely would read 5 out of 5. But from what I've heard, it's about different characters, so I don't think I'm interested. But let me know if I should read it. If you're like, no, it's great, you should read it. But the reviews seem to say it's not worth it. So the third one I read was a romance book, and it was one of Kindle Unlimited's free books, and it was called No Man Can Tame. It was originally released in a Beasts and Beauty collection by an author, and okay, here's the deal. I liked it for what it was. 4 out of 5, strong 4 out of 5 for me. Originally, I was going to rate it as a 5 out of 5, but I felt like I was being way too lenient because the ending of the book was not strong. I felt like it really wrapped a lot of things together. Like, there's a thing with a unicorn at the end, and if you've read it, you know what I'm talking about. And it was kind of like, that's how you're gonna wrap this up? That's your, like, I don't know. The end of the book was a disappointment in the way that they wrapped up some of the plot points. The actual romance I really enjoyed, which is why I consider giving it a 5 out of 5, because it felt like it ended in a good way. But it was kind of like, oh, so-and-so is dead. Oh, no, they're not. So-and-so is a unicorn. Or are they? Like, it was weird. I don't want to spoil anything, but if you like romance and you like fantasy, No Man Can Tame is about a dark elf who marries or is in an arranged marriage with the Beast Princess, which was a title they did nothing with. Don't know why. It made her seem interesting in the first chapter, and that was it. It never came back. I thought, like, maybe she's going to turn into a raven. Maybe she's really, like, disfigured, and so they call her a beast. No. She did have some back problems. Apparently, they like, broke her spine and, like, stretched her out because she was, like, I don't know. They weren't really clear. To me, it sounded like maybe she had some sort of malformation in her back, and so it described it as putting her on the table and, like, she was in pain, so I think maybe they were stretching her back out to straighten it. But, she had leg braces at some point, but to me that was all really, like, shallow, because it's like you're calling her the Beast Princess, but, there's not much beast about her unless you're just saying, oh, she's a beast because she's disabled. What? So then I didn't really get that part. I did like the romance between the dark elf and her, just because I liked the character of the dark elf. He was a very sensitive but still manly character where he respected women. He came from a culture that respected women, whereas she kind of came from a culture that did not respect women. And so it was nice to see a male character written that way. Of course, it is romance by a female author, so I do expect my male characters to be written somewhat, nicely. So it was okay. It was a 4 out of 5. the two that I'm currently reading are Amari and the Night Brother. Brothers. I am about halfway through it. Well, maybe a quarter of the way through it. I just started it a couple days ago, so I think it'll be in my December reads. And I'm also halfway through The Stand-In. It is so good. It's on Audible, and I'm excited to see how it ends. It's definitely like a strong 4 right now, depending on how they tie everything together and how the book ends, because I feel like we haven't quite got to a plot twist or anything really bad or climactic happening. So depending on how they pull those punches, we'll see if it goes up or down. For next month, I am hoping to read Sword of Destiny from the Witcher series. I would like to find the book Neon Gods, Shadow of Night from the All Souls trilogy. I read the first one already. And the X-Hex or House of Leaves, because Books and Lala talked about the House of Leaves, and it just sounds like a really interesting book. So I am technically also reading Anne Frank the play with our class, so that's technically on there, but I mean, I guess I'll add it because I've never read it before. But yeah, so that is my November book list, I guess. And I'm hoping to check in December with a lot more books. I have ordered a Kindle, and I'm hopeful that that will help me really move through some books. So I will see you guys next month for a check-in on how many books I hopefully have read. Hopefully I don't come back and say I've read one and that's it. So we'll see. All right, bye.